I'm Jeff Hunt. He's Bill Thorpe. Chris Murray's joining us.
The show's IQ is going to remarkably rise in a moment. Jeff and I are going to be practically geniuses here in a sec once I dial my phone number.
Harvard Law. He's a Harvard Law guy.
I know. Yes, we're all going to be. I mean, just imagine, just we put him on the phone, the group IQ rises dramatically. I feel so much smarter.
Right.
It's fantastic.
Takes the rest of us
Yeah,
up.
it's the smartest I'm going to be all day.
We're talking Justice Department suing Colorado Secretary of State in order to get her to force the release of detailed voter information. U.S. Department of Justice wants to know. They have the right to analyze our voter rolls, make sure they're following federal law. But Jenna Griswold, no. She won't provide, quote, sensitive records to the Trump administration. And she's not the only one. A number of other progressive states are doing this as well. Is this just another example of them trying to hide their fraud? Or is it an overreach of the federal government? Give us a call. Join the conversation. 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. Now is time for the news.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Good morning, TGIF. 36 and mostly clear in Denver, expecting a high of 61 today. News sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story, a climber is safe after getting lost in El Dorado State Park early Thursday. The man's family called the Boulder County Communication Center just before 2 in the morning on Thursday. Rescue crews used a drone to locate the climber in an operation that took about 6 hours. His headlamp and cell phone both ran out of batteries.
Hey everybody, Tina Peters was just granted a full pardon from President Trump moments ago. We need you to call the governor of Colorado, Jared Polis, and demand that he release her. She is a federal witness to a federal election crime in Mesa County, Colorado in 2020. She has the only images of the Dominion machines before and after the elections. So please, I need you all to stop whatever you're doing, get on social media, tag Jared Polis, get on your phones and start calling.
And Vandersteel, 47, issues another pardon. He'll grant former Mesa County Clerk Tina Peters a full pardon, and she's serving nearly 8 more years in state prison. I believe it's nearly 8 now. Carrie Lake on Peters.
And to throw her behind bars, the same corrupt people in Colorado who were behind the election malfeasance. And when she was trying to say, we're going to collect the evidence and make sure that we are responsible to the voters and the taxpayers, they throw her in jail for that, in prison for that. She's a woman who's got health problems, and I'm afraid if we don't get her out, that she'll die behind bars.
Does Carrie Lake have any idea what Mesa County's voting makeup is at all? Does she know what Mesa County is? Because Carrie Lake's statement right there, she said it was the people that perpetrated the election fraud. So the people in Mesa County perpetrated the election fraud, is her allegation. The Republican DA, the voters, the grand jury, and the jury that convicted her. Yeah, that's again. Carrie Lake is the one. Carrie Lake is the one that routinely.
That's what they're arguing.
No, hang on a sec, Jeff. What Carrie Lake said is the people that perpetrated this put her in jail. This was a trial that was held in Mesa County. She was tried and convicted in Mesa County, the people that elected her. And Carrie Lake said this was done by the people that perpetrated the election fraud.
No, I don't think that's what she's arguing.
No,
I mean,
that's what she said.
That's what you can make the argument.
That's what she said.
But what they're trying to point out is that the people that have perpetrated the fraud are out doing just fine. In fact, getting elected to higher and higher office.
That's not what Carrie. That's not Carrie's like. That's not what Carrie Lake said.
Has got to sit in jail.
That is not her direct statement. Her direct statement was.
Do you want to play it again?
Yeah, play it again.
Blake?
She says the people that perpetrated the fraud put her in jail.
It up here. Yeah. Let me see.
Her behind bars, the same corrupt people in Colorado who were behind the election malfeasance. And when she was trying to say, we're going to collect the evidence and make sure that we are responsible to the voters and the taxpayers, they throw her in jail for that.
I think. Yeah,
throw her
I
in
think
jail.
she's
The people responsible for the election fraud are the people that threw her in jail. She's using the same pronoun. It's a collective pronoun. It's they. The antecedent is earlier when she's talking about who it is.
And so you're saying because it was a jury that convicted her, that they is the jury?
The they would be Mesa County. She's saying that they who did the election fraud convicted her.
I understand what you're trying to say.
That's not what I'm trying to say. It's what Carrie Lake is improper in her use of language, and she's basically saying that Mesa County are the people that put her in.
No.
She's also the person that said the election she lost was stolen, and then another election she lost was stolen, another election she lost was stolen. So again, Carrie Lake's ability to discern the truth is also in question in this entire conversation. But she is saying that Mesa County perpetrated the election and put Tina in jail. That's dumb. Just dumb on its face.
And I think she's talking about the state, the
state didn't prosecute her. The state didn't prosecute her, and the state didn't put her in prison. That was
correct.
Mesa County.
But everyone's influencing this.
The state didn't prosecute her? I thought she was convicted on state crimes.
It wasn't
locally,
the Attorney General.
You're saying
was it the Attorney General? Was it Phil Weiser? No, it was the local district attorney. It was the Mesa County district attorney.
You're picking apart on particulars.
No, I'm using pronouns.
The larger point that Carrie, whether or not you agree with her and disagree with her, the point she was making is that Jenna Griswold, Phil Weiser, Jared Polis have all gone on to have fine careers in politics. Meanwhile, Jenna Griswold or Tina Peters sits in jail.
None of them prosecuted her, so and none of them.
See,
and can she show me? And hang on a sec.
Hold on.
Does she think? Does she think that Jenna and Phil?
No,
but hang on. The issue is, does Jenna and Phil and Jared Polis, are they the ones that perpetrated the election fraud? Because it has to be the they.
That's what Carrie is making the argument.
And that's why it's dumb.
All right,
because
you can say that, but we're just trying to explain to you what she said. All right, go ahead.
Yep. I'll move on, but hey, I hear you. But the bottom line, Carrie Lake says they're dirty on the left. Let me just clear it up,
correct.
And that's what's happening in the Jenna Griswolds of the world.
It was Mesa County.
Well, here we go. I mean, they're going to fight it, and we'll find out more in the next hour. 39-year-old Christopher Ost, a massage therapist, was arrested after being accused of sexual assault on a child. According to the Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office, he's suspected of secretly videotaping both adults and minors without consent while giving them massages. He turned himself in on the 7th and facing felony assault on a child, 2 counts. He was being held on a $75,000 bond and has been released. Colorado's unemployment rate dropped slightly in September. The Colorado Department of Labor and Unemployment and Employment says that 134,000 people filed for unemployment in September, a reduction of 4,800 from the previous month. DJT hosted a congressional ball at the White House last night. 47 touted his administration's economic accomplishments. He noted regardless of political differences, Republicans and Democrats can find ways to come together as Americans and hug it out. DJT says he'll support whoever runs against the Indiana State Senate's top Republican lawmakers there voted against a redistricting plan to give the GOP more seats on Capitol Hill. And let's see. Let's go down to this here. Erica Kirk has done several TV and media interviews this week. One of them airs tomorrow on CBS with a hack named Barry Weiss.
The podcaster Candace Owens, okay? At one time, a friend of Charlie's. At one time, an employee of Turning Point. She has been one of the main peddlers of these conspiracies, and she is making a huge amount of money on it. She is building her business off of these lies. What do you want to say to her and the other people that are putting these lies out into the world right now?
Stop. That's it. That's all I have to say. Stop.
Okay, so Candace Owens responds.
I would like to honor that, okay? I can only honor that if Erica is more explicit in terms of what I have lied about. What did I lie about? It's just incredible. There have this opportunity. The questions have been preferred. You could just start like going through them. Maybe they will. By the way, it's coming out on Saturday. Maybe I've made a mistake somewhere and I'm happy. I want to correct that, right? I'm not interested. My goal is not to tell lies. It is obviously plausible that I have made mistakes. I've reviewed these lists that we've put together and I can't find the lie, okay? The lies that I find are coming out of Turning Point USA.
So she has a long list of those.
Oh, she's got a long list of lies.
She does have a long list and video
Golly.
to show the lies from a lot of
they're gonna shut her down.
USA. Who's going to shut her down?
Eventually the people. I mean, because she's just so full of crap. I'm sorry.
This is an interesting question. So
yeah,
I was talking with the great Adam Walker about this. So in the court of public opinion right now, so you're saying the public is going to shut her down as far as...
and Turning Point should sue her for the damages that she's doing. But she is lying, 100%. The idea that Turning Point had anything to do with the assassination of Charlie Kirk is not correct. That Egyptians, that Israelis, that the Macrons, that French Legion warriors, that men in maroon shirts. I mean, you could go on for lots of times. Everything has been completely irrelevant to the actual case. And look, no one is critiquing other people for asking questions, but that's not what she's doing. She's full of allegations. And her entire podcast is all about allegations.
And just to put this in here, remember that in these conversations and also inside of any court proceeding, the burden of proof is on the affirmative, meaning the burden of proof is on Kansas to prove it, not for Turning Point USA to disprove. That's not how this works. Candace is not allowed to go out and make wild accusations and then say, prove I'm wrong. No. The burden is on her. If she says that the French and the Israelis were involved in the murder of Charlie Kirk, she has to provide proof. The absence of her proof is not proof that the conspiracy goes deeper and she can't produce it. If she makes the affirmative claim, the burden of proof is on her to prove it, not for Turning Point to disprove any claim. When she sits there and says, what are the lies? That's an avoidance of the entire issue. The issue is, can she prove everything on that piece of paper, that list that she has? If she cannot prove them, then she's a liar. That's it, full stop. Turning Point does not have to prove she's telling lies. She has to prove she's telling the truth. That's how this works.
All right, I'll have more next hour. Avalanche in town last night for a home game against the Panthers.
Down the center of the ice, here's Burns. A shot, save, rebound, score!
Avs skate past the Panthers 6-2. They're 22-2-7. Nathan McKinnon leads a balanced scoring attack. Nuggets destroy the Kings 136-105. Jokic 36 points, 12 rebounds. Broncos getting ready for the Packers this weekend. They go for 11 straight victories and trying to up their record to 12-2. 34 in Parker, 33 in Boulder, 36 in Denver. You are waking up with Jeff and Bill. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Very mild, sometimes windy conditions along the Front Range today. Temperatures way above average, reaching the low to mid-60s today as Pacific air will win out, keeping Arctic air well to our north and east over the course of the next several days. Today through probably Tuesday, dry and mild conditions will prevail. Low to mid-60s today, low to mid-30s tonight, a little cooler. Upper 50s to near 60 for Friday and Saturday, staying mild probably through Tuesday. A bit of a change in the weather around Wednesday. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Well, the music's festive. The debate is hot. Not only is it Tina Peters alleges that Griswold has violated the Federal Civil Rights Act by refusing to provide the records. This proceeding arises from the Attorney General's investigation into Colorado compliance with federal election law. The demand against DOJ officials, have sued more than a dozen states in similar actions, including 6 new lawsuits announced on December 2nd. The demand against Colorado includes records of registered voters' full names, date of births, residential addresses, and either the state's driver's license numbers, the last 4 digits of their Social Security numbers, or the unique identifiers provided under the Help America Vote Act. In a statement, Griswold said she has already released publicly available voter data to comply with the law. She said she would continue to refuse to turn over voters' personal information. We will not hand over Colorado's sensitive voting information to Donald Trump, Griswold said in a statement. He does not have a legal right to the information. I will continue to protect our elections and democracy and look forward to winning this case. Well, to provide some analysis on this is Chris Murray with First and 14th Law. He's represented a number of Republican campaigns over the years. Chris, what's at stake here? What's happening? Give us your insight.
I mean, honestly, Jeff, what's at stake here is like whether or not water is wet. Secretary Griswold has to turn over this information under the Civil Rights Act. She doesn't have an option. And so really what's at stake is how long is it going to take the federal government to get this information?
Interesting. Her argument is, look, it seems like Trump has available access to some of the information. It's just not all of it. Is that true?
Yeah, well, I mean, so that is true, right? I mean, the Civil Rights Act, and let's not forget where this comes from, okay? Back in the as a lot of your listeners, because they're the smartest in Denver, will know, right? We had a problem with access to the polls in the South for mainly Black Americans back in the 1960s, and then actually far before that. So part of the Civil Rights Act said, look, we need state officials to maintain all their records regarding voter registration, the casting of ballots, the payment of any poll tax, anything that is necessary to vote in the state. We need state officials to maintain those records. Why? Well, because if it turns out that you're finding some way to keep people from voting or to dilute legitimate votes with illegitimate votes, then the federal government needs to be in a position under the Civil Rights Act to do something about it. And in this complaint, the federal government says that they received at least one written complaint about a failure of the state to abide by the Civil Rights Act and the maintenance of this information. And so they said, hey, look, we want to check because the Civil Rights Act makes you keep this stuff. Please send it to us so that we can review it. And Jenna Griswold said, how about you just have the publicly available information? Well, that's not what the Civil Rights Act entitles the federal government to. The Civil Rights Act entitles the federal government to all records. And that's what this is about.
That's Chris Murray, First and 14th Law. We're talking a headline out of the Denver Post. Justice Department sues Colorado Secretary of State to force release of detailed voter information. Here's some of the text messages coming in. Suzanne wants to know, well, what could the federal government do with the last 4 digits of my Social Security number? Why do they need it?
First thing, by the way, they've already got it. It's the Social Security number that's issued by the federal government, right? Colorado only has that as a way to verify your eligibility to vote, and it's an easy way to verify U.S. citizenship. So what the federal government could do with this, and like Jenna Griswold is speculating that they're going to run it through some kind of a database to check the citizenship of Colorado voters. I think that's pretty wild speculation on her part. But what the federal government could do with this is say, hey, look, is Colorado keeping the information that they need to have in order to verify the eligibility of everybody who registers to vote? Remember, in Colorado, we now have automatic voter registration. You actually have to opt out of registering to vote in Colorado. And in some other states with that system, it's been shown that occasionally somebody gets registered who ought not to have been registered, or they get registered without all of the requisite information being taken down to ensure that voter is actually eligible. And I have a feeling that's what the federal government is looking into is, hey, when somebody registers to vote in Colorado, especially automatically, are we making sure that we've got some kind of unique identifier to make sure it's not a duplicate registrant and to make sure that the person is actually eligible to vote in Colorado?
That's Chris Murray, First and 14th Law. I mean, Chris, I know that other groups have sued the Jenna Griswold with regards to outdated voter rolls and making sure she has to clean them up. But this, you're making an argument that this is a little different.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is, look, Jeff, what you're talking about is recently there was a settlement with a group called Judicial Watch. That's Tom Fitton's group, where they bring lawsuits to force the cleanup of voter rolls under the Help America Vote Act. This is different than that, though. This lawsuit, the Civil Rights Act authorizes specifically what's called a special statutory action. It's not even really a lawsuit where the government just says, hey, we demanded these records. The statute says the state has to maintain them. The state wouldn't give them to us, so court order the state to give it to us. That's all this case is about.
You've been working in campaign politics in Colorado for a long time. You've been in court. You've battled over elections and those types of things. Do you think there's rampant voter fraud in Colorado?
No, I don't. But again, do I think that the federal government has a right to kick the tires on this information? It absolutely does. So, you can hold two thoughts in your head at the same time, that Colorado does not have, a rampant voter fraud problem. I don't think it does. But if the federal government wants to say, hey, we want to make sure that when you're doing this automatic voter registration, that you're collecting all the information you need to, and that you're properly verifying the eligibility of everybody you're registering to vote, yeah, that makes a ton of sense to me. That's, whether that part of the Civil Rights Act is a law that should still be on the books is a separate debate, but it's on the books. The federal government has the right to do this, and states can't just say, oh, well, I don't like who the president or the attorney general is right now, so I'm not going to cooperate with the Fed. That's ridiculous.
I mean, do you think that Jenna Griswold is just doing this for political points? It seems like right now, because I'm on Phil Weiser's fundraising email list, which is kind of funny, but it's
have you donated yet, Jeff?
Yeah, not a chance. But it's like I'm now on lawsuit number 40 against Donald Trump. Do you think that Jenna Griswold is fighting this really to just gain political points in a state that rewards her for fighting Donald Trump?
I mean, that would be my working hypothesis, because I've got to imagine the lawyers in the public officials unit who are going to be defending this case. I am sure that they have advised her that she has no chance to win this, none. And I'm sure that, look, Secretary Griswold is trying to become the next Attorney General of the state. To do that, she has to win a Democratic primary. And unfortunately, in the Democratic Party in this state, there are more points to be made for being obstreperous than there are for being reasonable. And, I guess while I'm saying it, I can admit that that's true in a lot of red states the other way, too. It's just it's a shame about the political situation we're in right now.
That's Chris Murray with First and 14th Law. We're talking a headline coming from the Denver Post. Justice Department suing Colorado Secretary of State to force the release of detailed voter information. I want to run something by you real quick, and then, Bill, I'll turn it over to you. When people ask me, and I get the question a lot, do you think the elections are rigged? I'll say yes, because I think there's two ways to rig a game. One is to directly alter the scoreboard, right? And just go, well, you scored a touchdown when you really didn't score a touchdown. So we're going to add 7 points. And, you rig the score at the end of the game in order to make it look like you won when you never did. I don't think that happens. But there's a second way to rig in the way I look at elections, and that's to rig the rules. If you have two teams out on the field, one team wins when the rules of the game favor passing versus running, for instance, and you write the rules and you lean into the rules and you script the rules to favor a passing offense, well, then you're going to win the game more often than not. Not always, but you're going to win the game more often than not. That's the way I kind of see election law. Is that Democrats benefit with automatic voter registration, no check on ID, mass carpet bombing of ballots across the state. Is there fraud there? Maybe, with signatures and ballot harvesting and those types of things. But they just win when the only requirement that people vote is that you're 18. And we just carpet bomb the entire state and everybody gets a ballot. Well, then Democrats tend to come out. When it tends to be the more engaged citizens that vote, well, then it seems like Republicans tend to win. And so that's why Republicans want to skew the rules towards voter ID, in-person voting, voting by ballot only, those types of things where it requires somebody that tends to be a little bit more engaged to show up, take time. Well, then Republicans tend to win. So the battles, in my mind, seem to be over the rules and making sure the rules favor your side so that you can win. Is that a fair analysis of kind of the battles taking place in election law?
So I think it's mostly fair, Jeff. Although I'll point out, I've been in this game for a little while now, and so what you've described, I litigate on behalf of the Republican National Committee, and Republican parties across the country over election rules. I've got a couple cases going right now over election rules in some other states. And in general, what you've described is correct, with a really, really big caveat. I think those assumptions are being challenged right now. And I'm not saying that that's going to continue forever, but in the world of Donald Trump, right? How has Donald Trump won the two elections that he's won? He has won by turning out, because why do you want to carpet bomb ballots, like we say, and have automatic voter registration? Well, it's so that you can turn out low propensity voters, right? There's tons of targets there. Just turn out enough of them and you can change the electorate and win. That was Barack Obama's strategy. That was kind of Joe Biden's strategy, I guess, to the extent that he knew he had a strategy. And, Donald Trump, though, has won at that game. That is how Donald Trump won both of his elections. Is he actually turned out different sets of low propensity voters. And I think as long as the rules of the game continue to say, hey, it may be the first time in 25 years you've ever decided to vote, but there's always going to be a ballot waiting in your mailbox. Some Republicans are figuring out how to win in that environment, and you're beginning to see in some red states where Republicans are winning in that environment, where they're actually okay with more low propensity voters voting because the low propensity voters are starting to turn Republican in those states. So in general, Jeff, I think you're right, and I think it still accurately describes the way the parties line up here for now. But I think some of the strategists on both sides are beginning to question, geez, who does this really advantage? And in some places, I think it depends on what state, what jurisdiction you're in.
That's Chris Murray with First and 14th. Yeah, I'm always fascinated by the political argument of we have a better advantage if we can make sure fewer people have the ability to vote. Whatever that functionality is, it's an interesting argument. But Chris, I want to kind of
but Bill, let me just say, I used to be very much in the boat of like, hey, just let everybody vote. It's going to be better that way. You're going to get better results. I'm not convinced of that anymore. I'm just not convinced because I think that part of the social contract for voting is you have to have some modicum of information about what you're voting on. And increasingly, I think, and I don't blame the average person for this, I blame our media and I blame our education system. There are a lot of people out there who are very ill-equipped to vote on issues that they don't know anything about, and I don't know how you fix that, but I know it makes a democracy sick, and it makes the representatives in a republic reflective of a populace that's listening to like Candace Owens' podcast.
Yeah, and see, I can see that, and the thing that worries me more is not the dumb voters, but the dumb politicians. And what I mean by that is that if we look at some sort of a bellwether or a benchmark of what the voter has to know before they can vote, I can get there if we start with the politicians. If we make sure they know the job they're doing, then we can do it. And just facetiously, just for a moment here, to give me just a little bit of space, people have talked about the idea of a test before you're allowed to vote. I could get there with someone if first, we have a test for the politicians. And I've gone so far as what we do is we have some sort of a civics test. They get 3 shots at it as they announce their candidacy, and they get to release the one publicly they want to choose. But we get to see their answers. And it has to include at least 5 essay questions. Has to. And that would be it. Yeah, you want to do that for a test? Then I'm okay doing tests for voters, as long as we test the other guys first, personally. But Chris, I would do this. Go ahead, please. I want to hear your thoughts on that.
No. I love that idea because I would love to. Actually, I would probably be horrified to read the answers.
Me too. But it'd be so much fun.
Of half the people in public office. But I'll say this: let's imagine that you've got all of your politicians, right? And this has never been the case, by the way, in any era of American history, right? But let's just imagine for a moment that all your politicians are virtuous, right? They're statesmen. You may not agree with their policy preferences, but they've all arrived at them in a rational and logical way, right? They are the quintessential people who are entitled to their opinion. I got to tell you, I don't know that our electorate and our media environment rewards people like that right now.
Oh, God, no.
I think our electorate and our media environment reward people who make them feel good.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. And people that make us stink. The two sides of it. Yeah, absolutely. Now, I want to do is you and I, Chris and Jeff, we're all going to step into the dark, smoky room behind the scenes with Jenna Griswold. We are going to kind of let's pretend for a moment. And what I want to ask you about is what are the possible strategies that Griswold and the state could have trying to push back on Donald Trump's request for this voter information? I admit he absolutely is 110% entitled to it based on the statute. I do agree with you that they are dragging their feet for political reasons. The only one that I think could fit inside of the courtroom for more than like a 5-minute discussion in front of a judge is the argument that the Trump administration has all the information they can publicly access right now that would verify the questions that they have. The only thing being, we don't need to give you all the information because all the questions that you have can be answered by publicly available information. That's the only branch of the tree I can see that has any possibility of holding up for more than even a partial glance. But if you were going to be behind that closed door, what's the advice? How do you possibly defend this thing?
So Bill, I would say that I actually don't think that works at all either. Because
really, okay.
This statute is so black and white that it's just you have to keep all this information. We get to demand it basically whenever we want, and the only defense I think would be, hey, yeah, they demanded it and we already provided it, Your Honor. Why are we here? But that's not the defense, right? Jenna Griswold's not saying, oh, I already gave it all. She's saying, I gave the stuff that any Joe Schmo off the street could request via Cora. It's just not going to work. So I think the advice would be hope that you get a politically friendly district court judge who feels that they have to be seen doing something to help your side and string it out until you get to the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals where you're going to lose.
Yeah, I can see that because I think it's black and white. I mean, I don't think that the Griswold side has even a single leg to stand on. But, the lawyers, as you know, my friend, get paid very well to make the arguments that can help their side in court. And the only one I can think of, and again, I think it'll fall apart almost immediately, but it's the only one that I can see they could make for more than like 3 minutes. The others are done after they complete the sentence. You're like, no, that's not what the statute says.
But a lot of this is, and you guys have both talked about it, political. I remember I was down talking to a lady one time at one of these No Kings rallies. And
was that one of the people who kicked you, Jeff?
Yeah, right. Yeah,
she was thinking of it.
This lady, she was all talking to me, and then she goes, Elon Musk is going to have access to my personal data, and she was very, very upset about that. This was the early days of Doge, and I just go, have you ever signed up for PayPal? And then the expression on her face changed, and she got very angry and then started yelling at people not to talk to me, just simply because to others' points like Suzanne's, it's like, gosh, how much of this is not out there? I mean, really?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean,
but they just don't want Donald Trump to have it.
The American voter, if you offer them a free pair of Super Bowl tickets, will give you their bank routing number and their social security number. They don't care. They're going to the Super Bowl, baby. They don't give a damn.
Well, I mean, just one thing I want to stick up for the very able lawyers, and I'm talking the non-political ones, right, in the AG's office, who have to defend Secretary Griswold. They are actually not paid well enough to do this. So
nice one. I like that.
I would not want to be one of them doing
Yeah,
this.
that's the one that when I saw this, that's the thing that I kept thinking about is those poor individuals in that team that have got to come up with some sort of a strategy. I'm like, this is not going to work, but you've got to come to court with something and try not to look like you're a clown. That is a really, really hard thing, in my opinion, on this side for Griswold's team. A really, really hard thing for them. And I know they're going to do their best, and I'm not indicting them personally. It's not a reflection on them personally. They're going to do their best, but oh my God, you have been given an awful task.
Jenna Griswold does have that badge of honor of getting a 9-0 slapdown from the U.S. Supreme Court.
What I think is
that includes Ketanji Brown Jackson.
That is wonderful.
Yeah,
it's another level.
This ain't going to the Supreme Court. This ain't going there.
Well, maybe if we get that far, maybe Jen will switch sides because she did that in in the state. She at first was defending it, and then she switched sides. So who knows? It could be a surprise.
You think Jenna Griswold's the next Attorney General? Or you think is it Doherty out of Boulder?
Oh, I just threw up in my mouth a little.
Honestly, guys, like handicapping Democratic politics in this state. It's kind of like, hey, which zebra in the zoo is going to run faster? Like, I'm just ill-equipped to do
it. Well, a great analysis on the case. In fact, text messages coming in, ILJ, a very good guest. And Jeff, great way of explaining Colorado's stuff.
And as we introduced you earlier, Chris, we love having you on because instantly the entire show gets smarter. We are instantly more intelligent simply because you're on the show with us. Just the aggregate IQ of this show instantly just rises amazingly. This is the smartest I'm going to be all day.
I will try to not dislocate my shoulder patting myself on the back, guys.
You're the best.
Chris Murray with First and 14th Law. By the way, an absolutely fantastic law firm getting a lot of victories. That CHASA negotiation with regards to men and women's sports, and CHASA going, all right, we'll allow school districts to be able to maintain sex selective sports and locker rooms and all that. That big victory that I did not explain well right there, but that victory came through First and 14th Law.
You got to realize that when the letterhead on top says First and 14th and it arrives, the people on the other side, they make a little pee-pee in their pants.
It
scares people.
Either that or they're like, is this their address? Like, what is this name?
Yeah, exactly.
It's the street corners of First and 14th. Actually, it's First and 14th Amendments. That's what it represents.
That is correct. Yeah, that's correct, Jeff. That's it.
You guys are doing great work. We appreciate you getting victories in Colorado for common sense. And thank you for your analysis today.
Yeah,
Chris Murray, First and 14th Law. All right, folks, let's talk L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. You know how unpredictable Colorado weather can be. One day it's 70 and sunny. The next, you're reaching for the thermostat. That's why I trust the team at L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. They've helped Colorado families stay comfortable for years with honest pricing, reliable service, and that small-town integrity that's hard to find. Right now, they're offering a furnace system evaluation for just $59.95. And if another company is trying to sell you something big, L&L will give you a complimentary second opinion so you can make the right call. And here's a bonus. With any new furnace or AC installation, you'll get a free programmable thermostat or carbon monoxide detector. And in addition to all this, they have no trip fees. They have next day installation, so you don't need to shiver in your house for a week, and 100% satisfaction guaranteed. They even offer military, first responder, and senior discounts because at L&L, they really do treat you like family. So when it's too hot or too cold, don't wait. Call L&L Heating and Air Conditioning or visit bestdenverhvac.com, bestdenverhvac.com. Trust me, you'll be comfortable with L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. We'll continue. Feel free to join the conversation if you'd like. Give us a call at 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS. Oh, this one's cool.
You just like the bells.
Well, it's a conglomeration of a couple of other, traditional carols, and they do it, and there's some really cool history behind it as far as Sarajevo and what was going on at the time in which they wrote it, and yeah, this is a fun one. This is one of those for you, yeah.
So, cool story about Christmas carols
Yeah.
at our house. When we were living in Washington, D.C., took my wife to the Kennedy Center to see Handel's Messiah.
Oh, wow.
She was pregnant with her first, and it was early into the pregnancy, early-ish, and it was during Handel's Messiah chorus, where everyone stands up and goes, hallelujah.
Oh, yeah.
Hallelujah. And imagine being in the Kennedy Center with a full orchestra, a full house, not an open seat anywhere. Everyone's singing hallelujah. First time my wife felt her first child kick.
Oh, that is really cool. Although the kid was like, turn it down out there. I'm trying to get some sleep.
Yeah.
What
are you guys all doing?
Yeah, what are you doing here? That's pissing me off.
So we're talking Justice Department suing Colorado Secretary of State to force release of detailed voter information. Chris Murray from First and 14th joined us, said his argument, she's got to. This is pretty clear in the statute. You have to abide by this. You have to turn over the voter data. You can't just say, well, here's some of the publicly available information. Nope. They get it all. His argument was that she's essentially doing this for political reasons. I think that's where he's right. That right now in Colorado, if you're an elected official, there is no electoral consequence for disobeying the president. I mean, just go all in at this point. Phil Weiser's 40-plus lawsuits. Jared Polis gets requests to turn over Tina Peters? No. Pardon Tina Peters? Absolutely not. Turn over voter information? Go pound sand, Donald Trump. And the voters of Colorado are like, you the man, you the woman. We love you. So that's the state we live in. Just fight the president and you'll be rewarded.
I do think that there is some truth inside there as far as the motivation behind what Jenn is trying to do is because she's shooting for AG, and that's been Weiser's MO. Just fight Donald Trump and put that at front and center. And also bring in lots of outside state lawyers when you don't have anybody on your team that you think can handle the thing, and then pay them. And that's the other thing we've been doing. Yeah, I'm not going to forget that, Phil. I'm not going to forget that ever. And you messed up the cases because you brought in those people, in my opinion. So that's a jacket I'm going to hang on you in perpetuity as long as you're in public life. Now, with Jenna, I think you're right. That's part of why she is fighting this, because at the core, I would assume that she knows, if not, people that are smart enough with the really fancy law degrees like Chris Murray that joined us earlier do know that there is no leg for Jenna to stand on. Chris Murray is right. The statute is 110% clear that the federal government has every right to all of this information, can request it, and it should be delivered. I'm still playing with the idea that Jenna is going to try to say, well, everything you need to do to check is publicly available. You can do the check, and it is some sort of an onerous burden on our office in order to have to do X, Y, or Z, and that's why we can't possibly do this now, because it would just take too long. We're just so busy. That's what I kind of think that she's going to go with. I don't think it works because that never really stops. You can't come in and say, well, too busy is an argument for not delivering something that the federal government is entitled to. So I think it will fail. But I think you're right that she is doing this in part because of the idea of politics, that she needs to have some sort of more bona fides, as they say, of fighting Donald Trump, because if her opponent is clever enough, they will point out that her great triumph of going to the Supreme Court and trying to fight there was actually ends up in a ginormous loss that, even as you accurately point out with a lot of humor, even Ketanji Brown said, no, that's wrong. Vote against you, 0. and the fact that she was on the other side when she had to defend it from the state. So she switched sides and then lost. That's not something that you really want to highlight, but if her opponent highlights it, it's beautiful.
That's a great point to point out. She lost the entire way.
Yeah, lost the entire way. Lost here and then switched sides to try to join the winning team and lost again. It's like the kid that you see where you're on the pickup basketball court and he organizes the teams and he thinks he's got the hot team and then his team loses the first game, so he decides to go join the other team. That's what she did. She joined the other team because she didn't want to lose, and then she lost again. Maybe the problem's you. Sometimes that happens inside the basketball court. Maybe it is you, Jenna. Maybe it is. I don't know. But that's something that someone should hang on her. When they're running against her, you got to remind, she picked in this fight. She picked the losing side not once but twice, and she even switched. Good job. That's the delineation. And you want that in the AG's office? Wonderful. That's great. Yeah, that should be the only ad they run.
Suzanne texting in, well, if the feds have all my information, why do they demand it? I don't think they have it organized in a way to see who's voting in which states.
Yeah, what they want to do is they want to verify. They have all your personal information. What they're doing is they're cross-checking. They're wanting to do things like do names match Social Security numbers because, again, they have your federal tax returns. They know all about who you are and how much you made last year. And most importantly, they're also trying to, in my opinion, cross-verify what Eric used to do, that formal system that since has kind of fallen apart and fallen by the wayside because people have pulled it out. But it would cross-check the idea of Social Security numbers and people's names across different voter rolls. So I think what the federal government's going to do is to make sure that a Brian Smith with a particular last 4 digits of their Social Security number isn't registered here, and the same registration in Nebraska, and the same registration in Montana, and the same registration in Idaho. That's what this information is going to allow them to do, and I think it's appropriate for them to have it compiled into a large system like an Excel spreadsheet that the state already has. The government shouldn't have to put this information together on their own because the state already has it done this way.
All right, coming up next hour, big changes coming to eastern Colorado, Elbert County, in a big battle with Excel, as well as El Paso County, over these big power lines they want to bring in. Major solar projects going up in eastern Colorado, all to reach Jared Polis's plan of totally carbon-free energy by 2050. We'll get to it. You're listening to Jeff and Bill.
This is KNUS.